Hey everybody, I wanted to talk a little bit about the new update in Witchfire. There's a few little things in this update that I think are a little bit confusing, and so I wanted to talk about them and explain them as best I could. We're going to talk about the new weapons, particularly the Duelist, something that I figured out about that to make it work a little bit better. The prayer system, the shadow orbs, and then finally Witch Mountain, the map, how that works, because it's a little bit strange. It's a strange map. So let's get into it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the new prayer system. I think it's awesome. We've got 3 prayers still, Goliath, Elias, and Cain. And these each have kind of a different role to play. Goliath, we'll start with him. He shows up when you are really low health, and he starts beating up on enemies, and he tanks up quite a lot of damage. Elias shows up when you are in a calamity, and Cain shows up when you're fighting a boss. And they each have kind of different things that they do in the fight. They tank a little bit of damage, and they also provide some damage as well. But the system for having these guys show up is different. It used to be you just summon them from the map, but that doesn't work anymore. Now we have to focus on the flame. You seek prayer echoes in the same way. You use 1,000 volatile witchfire to seek prayer echoes, but then you make an offering. So we'd get 10 boons for 50 prayer echoes. I happen to have like 90 right now. So this gives me 10 boons. What that means is 10 instances where they will show up. So if I play in 10 different maps, or if I play in a single map and I get down to very low health 10 times in that map, Goliath will show up 10 times. Or if I have a calamity, multiple calamities go off, then Elias will show up. Whenever I fight a boss, Cain will show up until I run out of the boons. So I have 10 boons right now. You always want to be seeking prayer echoes. That's like a no-brainer if you have any. If you have any Witchfire left, or if you have any shards or chunks, those are best used to get at least 1,000 so that you can be seeking prayer echoes, because they chew through these a lot, and you don't find that many. I haven't found yet how to know what the quest is. Okay, quick update. I found out how you figure out what the quest is. You push the X key on the keyboard. I'm not sure what it's mapped to on a controller if you're using a controller, but you push the X key, it shows you what your shadow orb and your echoes quest are. So this one we can get Iron Gate Castle, the Noble's Garden Marketplace, and event rewards as well. Their events will reward echoes as well. My shadow orb that I'm currently working on is collecting treasure in Witch Mountain. So that's how you figure it out, the X key. I don't know what it is on your controller. I suppose you just have to look that up yourself. The next thing I want to talk about are the shadow orbs. So these shadow orbs you can collect, and you can have 10 in your inventory, but only one of them is being worked on at a time. Right now I'm working on this one, so I have to kill weaponless enemies, and the enemies must be electrocuted. So you have to have some kind of a shock spell, and then when you kill enemies like the Sons of the Forest and the Sisters, those floating enemies, they're considered weaponless enemies, and when you kill them, if they're electrocuted, it counts towards this. Once you've charged up a shadow orb, it'll glow yellow, and then you'll start working on the next one. And those are really great. You can take these and go to anything in your inventory that needs to be leveled up. So like right now I'm working on Cornucopia. If I had a charged shadow orb, I could use it on Cornucopia, for instance, and it would give me like 10 of the spell casts that I need to get to level 3 or 3rd Mysterium, right? So it basically speeds up the process of you leveling up these spells and weapons and items. It's pretty awesome. I think it's a great system, and it lets you level things up faster, and you don't have to just grind out that one piece of gear. You can use other gear and try to get the shadow orbs satisfied, which is kind of cool. Okay, another thing I wanted to talk about is one of the new weapons, the Duelist Pistol. This weapon is kind of interesting and maybe a little confusing. It talks about how you can, after a kill, a duel can be initiated by shooting an enemy while aiming down sights. Basically, your pistol will glow after you've killed an enemy, and you can duel. If you land a critical hit right after the mark, it empowers the gun temporarily, and dueling is disabled while empowered. So that's a little bit confusing. Let me kind of explain how this works. So if I kill an enemy, okay. So as you can see, my weapon is now glowing, and if I shoot that enemy, it initiates a duel, which gives me extra damage, and it gives me, hold on a sec, and it gives me a faster reload. You saw that I was like flipping the gun back, and it gives me a faster reload, which is really cool. But I don't know if you heard the little sound effect that went off. There's a little click. Once you start the duel, you can't just shoot right away. The description makes me think that I could just shoot. And for the longest time, I was just like firing, and I kept failing duels over and over again because I wasn't firing at the right time. You have to wait for that click. So see if you can notice it. So I duel this guy, and I wait for that click, and then suddenly my gun is empowered. And let me tell you, this gun is pretty great when it's empowered. And what's awesome too is that if you kill enemies, it refreshes the duel to a point. But that's how that weapon works. It's a pretty fun weapon. Like when you've got lots of damage and you're just like fan firing everywhere, it's pretty sweet. So give it a try, but make sure you're firing and getting that crit when you hear the click sound. Like right when the click sound is when you want to fire. You have a little bit of time, like once you hear the click, to shoot. As far as the Finger of God, this weapon seems a little bit more simple to me. It seemed a little bit underpowered, and it costs stamina to fire. It's not my favorite of the shotguns. I think the other shotguns are probably better, or at least the echo is better, I think. But oh man, we got the poison grass. Shoot. But basically, you've got this like aiming down sights thing. You fire like a cannonball, so it's sort of like a more medium range weapon. But you also have just a regular shotgun effect, which is pretty cool. But it just feels kind of slow, like compared to the other shotguns that we have. It's a little bit slow, but that does a lot of damage, right? It's 200 damage to fire that off, which is kind of cool. And then if you, let's see, what does the final thing say? Enemies surviving a shot with low health begin to decay. So it's kind of like even if you don't kill an enemy, but you do enough damage to get them low. Let's see, did I I think I just killed that guy. One thing I dislike about the shotguns is how you can load one shell in, but you don't do the rest of the reload. Let's see if I can just get him like low health, but not like totally dead. Okay, he just started decaying. So that's how that works. Is it amazing? I don't think so. I don't think it's that awesome. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was Witch Mountain, how this map works. I have a video where I go through the whole thing if you want to watch that, but in this one I wanted to just explain some of the stuff in the map. And so I'm just going to kind of jump around and show you a few things that are important to know about. Okay, the first thing I want to point out is this shrine here at the very beginning after you fight the first pack. It's surrounded by these different witch mark guys. This increases your damage. This, I think, increases your health, or maybe, well, I think they increase either your health or your stamina, respectively. And then the Witch Mark of Plenitude is kind of interesting. If you give this one, it will increase the number of resources that you'll find in the map. So if you're trying to unlock the 3 different Divine Essence gates or whatever that are in the map, there's one that costs 10 Divine Essences, one that costs 20, and then one that costs 30. And especially the one that costs 30, I had to use a Mark of Plenitude to get that one too. to get enough for that one. But yeah, that's what the Mark of Plenitude is for. What that does, it's kind of useful. It also gives you more raven feathers and the like, which is nice. But then once you've completed the map, this will, or at least gotten to the last phase of the map, this will glow, and you can traverse to the other side whenever you want. And you can do this, any new time you're going into the map, that'll be active for you. So you can go to this part of the map, which is where you are kind of building an army and going through the labyrinth to get to that center kind of pillar thing. I don't know, pillar of souls. I don't know what to call it. But you can do that, and even if you've just jumped to the end and you've only collected one arcana because you only killed that one pack, that's okay, because as you fight enemies, there will be more of these to pick up in the labyrinth. So we're gonna jump in here, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about how the labyrinth works. Alright, so I decided to just narrate this because me trying to explain it while running around and shooting everything and trying to keep track of where I am was a little bit distracting. So basically, when you jump down here, you're going to want to immediately destroy any orbs that you see. So this first orb in this area, you want to destroy that. Once you destroy it, it stuns all the enemies, so it's very worth doing immediately. It stuns all the enemies, and it summons a pack of allies, basically your army that you're building up. So once you destroy the orb, then you can kill the rest of the enemies in the area. There's a little shrine by the orbs that if you kill an enemy close to that shrine, it'll grant you a little bit of demonic ammo, and it'll refill your regular ammo. But you also get an ammo pack just for destroying the orb, which is super, super nice. The guns that I have found to be most useful for destroying orbs has been the Echo shotgun. I think you can destroy an orb with about 5 shots with the Echo shotgun, maybe even fewer. And even better than that is the Hailstorm sniper rifle. Because you're always critting against the orbs, every shot is a crit. You do 200 damage per shot with the Hailstorm, and so I believe 3 shots will destroy any orb, which is pretty amazing. It's not the fastest firing weapon, but the damage is so high that it's definitely worth it, and you can get that from far away too, which is great. Normally I don't actually like the Hailstorm that much because it's so dependent on getting crits, but in this situation, the Hailstorm is maybe one of the best weapons for this, so check that out. But basically, you're going to be destroying the orbs, summoning allies, killing the enemies that are spawning from these areas. Sometimes it'll be a boss as well, like the drowned captain will show up most likely. The galley slave will show up. I've seen the Demaker show up as well. But just kill these bosses, and the bosses will drop ascension crystals that you level up at, and you get a perk from. And then eventually, once you've defeated a lot of enemies and summoned a lot of allies, you're going to eventually get to this area here. You want to destroy the orb in the back, and then as enemies spawn out of the, I don't know what to call it, the soul column, basically where you're going to go to fight the witch eventually. Once you've defeated all the enemies that it spawns, you'll have beaten the labyrinth, and it'll let you basically travel back to the hermitorium. They don't have the fight with the witch unlocked yet, so you just complete that and then you go back to the hermitorium. It's kind of a cool mechanic. I like summoning allies. I do think that it sometimes is hard to tell who your allies are and who enemies are, but basically if an enemy has any color at all, even if it's just like sepia tone, that means that it is an enemy and not one of your allies. That is, sometimes I've shot my allies because I think that they're enemies, but the allies are going to be pure grayscale, I think, pure black and white. Maybe they'll change that eventually to make it a little bit easier to identify who your allies are and who the enemies are, but yeah, basically you just want to do that. It's a good idea to do flanking, because a lot of times enemies with shields will be fighting your allies, and then if you can flank them and take enemies with shields out from the side. Spells are going to be a huge deal in this area. If you have
some of the big AoE spells. Those are incredible for this area. But yeah, that's kind of those are my tips for this area. Hope that was helpful. What do you think of the video in general? Was this helpful? Do you have any other questions about Witch Mountain or anything else in the update? Let me know in the comments below if you have any tips to provide people as well. I'm sure people will be curious and interested to hear what you have to say. Friends, thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.